Hi guys. So I don't know if you have watched Beauty and the Beast. I have. I watched it immediately after the Pretoria High Court handed down judgment in their interdict application. And there's this one interview that stood out for me. It stood out for me because I'm interested in Dr. Naphipha Magudumana's extradition application. We know it's now in the Constitutional Court. But that particular interview is with an anonymous Tanzanian police detective who says there were three groups of police officers who were pursuing Thabo Bester. It was Interpol, SAPS, and Tanzanian police officers, right? He says initially there was information that Thabo Bester was sleeping around Arusha, right? And they decided that they were going to surround the hotel where he had been sleeping. But when they wanted to effect the arrest, it then emerged that he had left 12 minutes prior. So they just missed him, right? But a decision is then made. Let's set up a roadblock, right? They set up a roadblock, but there are concerns that the vehicle may have already passed because it was heading, according to the detective, towards Kenya. But, fortunately, they didn't stop this vehicle. They asked the occupants of the vehicle, open your windows. The occupants opened the windows and then voila. One of the officials says, Thabo, Dr. Nandi, right? And in their faces, he says you could tell they knew it was over. They had been arrested. And why I find this particular interview interesting is because if you go back to the extradition application and the arguments that we've been hearing since the High Court in Bloemfontein, Naphipha Magudumana argued that she was abducted by the SAPS, brought to South Africa, right? But they said, hang on, we were never there. We were not there. You were, in fact, arrested for being in Tanzania illegally. You were even given a notice that ordered you to leave the country within 3 days by escort. Our role was to transport the immigration officials once we learned that you had been arrested and your identity had been confirmed. We transported them and provided escort to them because Thabo Bester was considered dangerous and a convicted criminal. In any case, we wouldn't have participated because South African or the SAPS does not have jurisdiction outside the borders of this particular country. But you listen to this particular interview where this police detective counts, amongst others, the SAPS, right? So secondly, if these guys were arrested at the time, and I'm not saying there is a doubt about them being arrested for being in Tanzania illegally, then why was there a need for the hotel to be surrounded? Wouldn't it have been a coincidence that they would be driving towards the border or to wherever in Kenya and there would be a roadblock and then they would be arrested because the police would find out that they don't have the documents to be in Tanzania unlawfully? I find it a bit too convenient that there would be that issue of surrounding the hotel. But thirdly, I may be crazy, but this is just me. You know, who in Tanzania would know Thabo Bester and Dr. Naphipha Magudumana? I know this was a story that grabbed international headlines, but who, would know even the nuances that Naphipha, in short, Nandi, I know it sounds crazy, but given the fact that, the South African police service said they were not in Tanzania at the time, these events raises a lot of questions, right? But anyway, this is an interview that I found interesting. I wonder if you've watched it and what your thoughts are. Quite a number of points, also, obviously, that I picked up, but I wonder what stood out for you. We know the matter is at the Constitutional Court, but it's yet to be heard. So when that, happens, we'll be watching very closely.
I know you guys are busy with Charlie Kirk things, but please, when you find a chance, go watch Beauty and the Bester. It's out on Netflix. There's some things I didn't know. And I followed the case, I think, pretty closely, but I guess I just didn't connect the dots, following something real time. Anyway, I didn't know about Paul Tracy's connection to the case. I saw in the trailer and I was like, why am I seeing Pearl Thusi in the trailer? And then I heard her side of the story in the thing, and I was like, oh, anyway, so something that was a revelation. And I would have liked to see her husband, give accounts, but at the same time, I realized after I thought that already, these are real people. Like they're not a spectacle, like Mapilo Abatu, and I'm probably awful for thinking that, but I wanted to hear his account, especially because I heard from the brother, heard from the mother, well, her mother, and his mother, and the dad that was a co-accused. That it's a man.
We have just learned in the Netflix documentary that Thabo Bester pulled a knife on Paul Thusi in 2011. They met. He was going to drop her off at a modeling gig, and they got in the car and they went into a dead end. And she thought, oh my goodness, why is he pulling a knife out? And she asked him. And then he said, you know what, my life, it's been really bad. And she tried to counsel him and said, hey, listen, go and speak to my pastor, give your life over to Jesus. And they went and they spoke to Pastor Gift. And Pastor Gift still said to her, you need to call the police on this guy. And she said, no, just please listen to him, please help him, please counsel him. And she ended up giving him a Bible. And that is the last time she saw him. How many more women has Thabo Bester terrorized in the entertainment industry?
I need to talk about this. Have you all seen Beauty and the Bester on Netflix? It is about this South African female doctor who was in an abusive relationship with this guy that she helped the guy escape from prison. We need to talk about it because recently Dr. Charlene Obiobi, and Dr. Charlene is a cardiologist, a Ghanaian female cardiologist in the US. Can you just give it up for the women that I follow? Because I am in awe of all of these women. A Ghanaian female cardiologist. She made a video. And this Netflix docu-series is a classic example of how successful Black women, need I say successful African women, can become victims of intimate partner violence, domestic violence. When I talk about domestic violence, there are some women who are like, oh, because of my education, I am not going to be a victim. Abusive men do not care about your education. In fact, your education may make you a target. A Ghanaian society that, educated women, they are so single. They go to bed by themselves. If you do not take care and heal from those narratives, you can become a victim to these good-for-nothing men who have no part to person. You'll become a victim, even with your education. Go and check that docu-series out on Netflix and come and tell me what you think about it.
I was really expecting to see more from Beauty and the Bester documentary, Thabo Bester and Naphipha. But it seems like the documentary kunetinto letiningi nje letinga make sense naletingangapheleli, because I was expecting to hear side le story lapha banaNaphipha ukuthi kahlahle kube yini yena la kudlalile kuyo yonke lenzima sagcina atholakala seka guilty wendani. Okay, I did hear ukuthi he was the one lo transporter lesidumbu sakatle Hobereng wasisa kuphi manga prison. He was driving that van lebena leso sidumbu, but akazange ayithinze nayo lenzaba akhulume ngayo ukuthi what really happened, bamqela njani kwendakaleni. Akazange nje akhulume ngalenzaba leyo. Naphel Thusi ngifile ngazuthi njena kunetinto lathi hide kule nkulumo yakhe. But anyway, ngibukele documentary phelile, and this is what people had to say about the documentary. Ngibonile abantu abaningi abakhuluma izinto letiningi ngayo. Nami ke that's my 2 cents ukuthi ngifile ngazuthi kunetinto nje letingakhulunywa letinye. If uyibukelile nawe, please do comment ukuthi wena ubonini and what are your thoughts. Mina nawe sibonana next time. Goodbye.